Hello and welcome to Filling the Sink. I'm Lorcan Doherty, and today for Sant Jordi we're talking about Catalan literature. Bona diada de Sant Jordi a tothom. A very happy St. Jordi's Day to everyone watching or listening. April 23rd is St. George's Day, the patron saint of Catalonia, and it is a magical day here full of romance, love, roses, dragons, and, of course, books. I like to think it's a bit like Valentine's Day, but much better. Today we'll be exploring the world of Catalan literature together with a special guest, Izaskun Arretxe. We'll also visit some English language bookstores in Barcelona and do some myth busting about the day itself, Sant Jordi. So I'm delighted to be joined today by Izaskun Arretxe, the director of the literature department at the Ramon Llull Institute. Izaskun has worked as a teacher, including teaching Catalan at La Trobe University in Melbourne, Australia. She's held senior roles in various publishing houses, including Ara Llibres, and she was appointed Director of Literature at the Ramon Llull Institute in 2016. She returned to the role in 2024 after 3 years as Director of the Institute of Catalan Letters. In other words, no better person to speak to about Catalan literature. You're very welcome to Filling the Sink.
Thank you. I'm delighted to be here.
I wanted to start by asking you a little bit about today. What is the presence, what is the visibility of Catalan literature around the world?
For literature outside, we are widely translated into other languages. Nowadays, there's 71 languages in which Catalan literature has been translated. And this is growing steadily year after year. In 2017, we granted 79 books for translation from Catalan into other languages. And last year, we gave grants to 180 projects. So that's more than double. And this continue growing. And also, we find now that there's more genres that are being translated. Before, it was more than everything, fiction. But now there's non-fiction, there's comic books, there's of course, children and young adults literature, there's poetry, there's drama. So it's not only more books, but more different from different genres. And that's very rich.
We're doing this particular podcast in April, but to mark Sant Jordi. And, it's one of my favourite days of the year. I'm sure yours too. It's a massive day for literature in Catalonia, but I wonder, does it have any impact outside of Catalonia?
Sant Jordi is fantastic. It's unique. And in a professional world, like book fairs and international publishing companies and stuff, everybody knows and admires Sant Jordi because there's in Barcelona only more than 300 stalls, and in all Catalonia, 1,000 stalls of books in the streets, more than 2 million books being sold in one day. There's nowhere in the world.
It's totally unique.
It's absolutely unique. So I think they know it, and that helps us talk about Catalan literature. If we're talking about the general public, I don't know if the link, I would like it to be, but I don't really know if the link between Sant Jordi and Catalan literature, it's so obvious.
Right. Now, I'm just wondering, when international readers do discover Catalan literature, what is the reaction? Have you seen that over the years?
I think that has changed in the last 15 or 10 years. Years ago, it was very common that people will ask you or will ask writers, why do you write in Catalan? So there was a sense of surprise to learn that after this language, behind this language, there was this really rich literature coming from the Middle Ages and very vibrant nowadays. So there was this sense of surprise. I think nowadays that doesn't happen. I think people knows that there's a Catalan culture linked to a language. So now it's more like a recognition of the diversity, of the richness, but not so much a surprise linked to a particular language that without a state, it was maybe not so well known.
In terms of how readers discover Catalan literature, do you think it's more through classics? I guess the most well-known work of fiction in Catalan is The Time of the Doves, La Plaça del Diamant by Mercè Rodoreda. But, you know, in recent years, contemporary Catalan literature has been recognised internationally as well. I'm thinking of Eva Baltasar's Boulder, which the English translation was shortlisted for the International Booker Prize. Irene Solà's When I Sing Mountain Dance had great success internationally as well. So do you think nowadays, is it these modern books that readers are discovering, or is it the classics?
I mean, it's difficult to say that for all countries in all languages, but I think usually people arrive to Catalan literature to contemporary authors, because in book fairs, what publishers generally buy, the rights that they generally buy, they are contemporary authors. Therefore, what is published in the markets is contemporary authors. So there's more contemporary authors, and they are better known. But in the recent years, not only for Catalan literature, but all over Europe, there's this like small trend that is republishing classics as if they were contemporary books. And that's happening with a lot of success. For instance, Montserrat Roig. In the last 4 years, there's been 23 translations of Montserrat Roig into other languages, and she is one of our classics. But she can relate very well with contemporary issues. Therefore, they buy it as if it was contemporary. But it is easier for the general reader to get to know contemporary literature.
Well, we're going to continue this conversation very shortly, but something different now. The myth and legend of Sant Jordi, slaying the dragon, is all part of the fun of Sant Jordi, especially for the little ones. But there are also several modern myths and misconceptions about the day itself. Here's Uriel Escudé to enlighten us.
Can you imagine a country where in a single day 25% of the population gets the same gift? Well, that's pretty much what happens in Catalonia in Sant Jordi. Around 2 million books are sold every year on that day. That's in a population of 8 million people. Now, yes, it's a bit of an oversimplification because not everyone buys a book and some people buy more than one, but still the scale is huge. So let's break down 4 myths and misconceptions about book sales on Sant Jordi. Myth number 1, it's all about fiction. Not true. In fact, fiction represents 35% of total sales. The second biggest category is children and young adults books with around 30%. Then comes non-fiction at 24%. And finally, we've got comics at 11%. And this category has been growing and growing over the last few years, and now it's more visible than ever in bookstores. Myth number 2, most books are sold by famous authors. If you've ever seen the queues and the crowds in Plaza Catalonia lining up to get their books signed, it's easy to think that. But the reality is the opposite. Last Sant Jordi, around 75,000 different titles were sold. And from this, those from the popular, most best-selling authors only represented 6% of total sales, which shows that Sant Jordi is about diversity and reading all kinds of literature. Myth number 3. Bookstores make most of their yearly money on this day. It is indeed a very important day for bookstores, but probably not as much as people think. On average, bookstores make about 8 to 10% of their yearly revenue on Sant Jordi. Now that's a big chunk, but still their best-selling and more important seasons are Christmas and back-to-school season. Myth number 4. Spanish books dominate over Catalan. Now this one's very, very close, but slightly wrong. Sales are almost evenly split, but Catalan comes out on top. Last year, 52% of all books sold were in Catalan, while 48% were in Spanish. And in counties like Lleida or Girona, this goes even further, up to 60%. And finally, I wish I could give you a 5th myth. How many of these 2 million books are actually read? That's a number we don't have, but hey, maybe that's not the point, and the whole thing is about celebrating literature and culture.
Thanks to Uriol. Izaskun, you're Director of Literature at the Institute Ramon Llull. What is the Institute's role in promoting Catalan literature abroad? I know, for example, it had a very strong presence at the FIL, the Guadalajara International Book Fair.
What we do, our aim is to make people fall in love with Catalan literature. But of course, to fall in love with Catalan literature, you have to be able to read it in your own language. So everything that we do, our grant system, our programs, everything, is to achieve that. How do we do that? First of all, I wanted to say that this is a collective effort. I mean, as an institution, we do several things, but then there's the whole system of literary agents, publishers from here, authors, booksellers, etc. And that's very important because if translations from Catalan into other languages are growing, is because we are all doing our bit of the job, and that's part of the success. So how do we work at the Institute Ramon Llull? We do 3 types of things. First of all, we go to professional publishing book fairs. Last year we went to 13 publishing book fairs, and that includes Frankfurt, of course, the most important one in the world, but also Bologna, that is happening in the month of April, that it's targeted to deal with children and young adults literature. We've been in Paris, we've been in Göteborg, in Guadalajara, of course. We've been in Buenos Aires, in Torino. So we go there and we try to help our publishers and our agents to sell rights to translate the books. We don't sell rights. We just go along with them. So what do we do? In the book fairs, we produce these materials, these booklets, where we try to show the diversity and richness of our literature, our fiction, our non-fiction, our children's literature, our comic. So there's a diversity of voices, of styles, of ages, of origins, etc. So international publishers can see how rich and alive our literature is. But we also have a whole system of grants that is going to help international publishers to translate those books. And that's important because because it's very expensive to translate a book. So we can financially help them not only to translate the books, but also to promote them. Because I always say that if we have a book translated into other languages, but nobody knows it, well, you're wasting your money. So for us, it's very important not only that we have books translated, but also that they have the correct promotion, that the author can travel to that place to talk about his or her book, that they can do a marketing campaign and all that. So when we go to book fairs, we have plenty of meetings, like, for instance, in Bologna, that is happening these days, our team, there's 2 people there, and they are having 90 meetings with international publishers where they explain not only our literature, but also the grants that they can use to make it easier for them to publish our literature. So that's the first thing we do. The second one, we try that our authors can travel around the world to dialogue with other literatures, to be in events, in festivals, so that our voice, our point of view is heard everywhere. So that's the second thing we do. And the third thing, and for me, extremely important, it's our translators. Our translators, so I always say, they are our people. Because without them, our literature would be only Catalan literature in Catalonia, but not abroad. So we are very lucky because we have very good literary translators. But we have to make sure that in every possible language, there's a good 1, 2, 3, 10 good literary translators into that language, and that's not easy. So we have programs for them. So, for instance, maybe there's a territory, there's a country where the publishing industry is growing. For instance, in China, we are going this year. We're going to Beijing to the book fair. But if they happen to buy the rights of a novel or children's book to translate it into Chinese, we have to make sure that there's translators that can do this job. So we also work with translators. And we're very happy because this year in November, for the first time, we're going to have in Barcelona for 3 days a forum with as many literary translators as we can from Catalan, literary translators from Catalan into other languages. And that's very important for us.
I'm actually really interested in this process of translating a book because, okay, you've got this wonderful book in Catalan. What happens next? How does it work?
Well, many things can happen. The most common thing that happens is that usually this author has an agent. This is very important because sometimes authors ask me, how can I do to have my book translated? It's a job to get your book translated. It's not something that happens spontaneously. From time to time, it happens spontaneously. But this is not the thing that happens in a very normal way. So you get your agent, and your agent goes to the book fair, to the same book fairs where we go. So the agent try to do like a Tinder match, try to find the right catalog for this book. They have a whole lot of meetings with different publishers, and they try to connect every book with the right publisher in whatever the language is. And then these publishers, once they have bought the rights, they talk to us. Because the agents, they tell us, or the publishers, they tell us, well, maybe it's easy for you to do it if you talk to Institute Ramon Llull because they can provide you with financial help. And it's as simple as that. Then there's the publisher that decides what cover would suit that book, because sometimes covers are completely different because the aesthetics in that particular language is different than it is in another language or in the original language. The audience is going to receive the book in a different way. I mean, it's fascinating
to see.
It's fascinating to see that. This is like the most, the most common way to have a book translated. But then we have our translators. They are also big recommenders of books. They are much more than translators because they know their territories, they know the languages, and they suggest many, many times books to publishers. And then there's other ways. We have a program that it's a fellowship every year in Barcelona in September during the Setmana del Llibre en Català, where every year, and we've been doing that for 25 years, we bring 18 publishers to Barcelona for a week. And this is a deep immersion in Catalan literature. I mean, there's talks, there's visits to bookshops. They go to the Setmana del Llibre en Català, and they have...
Which is Catalan Book Week.
Yeah, Catalan Book Week. And then they get to have 2.5 days of meetings with Catalan agents and publishers. So from the fellowship, there's lots of books that have been translated.
I mean, are there certain genres that translate or travel particularly well, or even certain writers? Are you sometimes surprised if something works or doesn't work?
This is always a surprise. You really never know. But if I had to set a rule around it, I'd say that very in the spectrum, you can find very, very commercial books that they have worked really, really well. Las Calces del Sol, the Regina Sirvent, they will be translated into other languages because they have worked massively here. But then it works very well the other side of the spectrum. They're really ultra local, very distinctive, with a very particular voice, because it's a voice that it doesn't exist in another language. It's a point of view that you cannot find in another language. And Irene Solà is the perfect example of that. It cannot be more local, but at the same time, it cannot be more universal. And you cannot find an Irene Solà in another language. And that makes her very interesting. So I found that what travels most is either very commercial or very, very literary distinctive. Of course, there's millions of examples in between.
Yeah.
But that's it.
And in terms of children's books or young adult books, is that a genre that you see a lot of translations?
It's growing immensely. In 2017, Catalan literature was guest of honor at the Bologna book fair. being guest of honor for us, it's very important because it happens. It is a turning point for the translators because everywhere, everybody, and when I say everybody, I mean the industry, not the general public. Like the industry is looking at us. So in 2017, children's books were widely translated, but from there onwards, it's been huge. We have amazing writers. And we have amazing illustrators. I mean, we're not going to talk about illustrators today, but we also help. We also have a grant for illustrators that live in Catalonia or the Balearic Islands, and that's very important. We are first class in terms of illustration as well.
And you've kind of touched on it already, but what are the main challenges in getting a great book that's written in Catalan and getting it, traveling around the world?
For me, the main challenge is that, and this is a challenge that I'm happy about, is that we have first class literature, but happily there's many other great literatures around the world. So we have to outstand. We have to compete somehow. I mean, I don't like the word competing, but. So for me, the difficulty is how you make your literature stand out next to other literatures that are also absolutely valuable. For me, that would be the main challenge. And for me, that means being there even more. I mean, I think our team and our literary sector in Catalonia, we know how to do our work. I mean, we can always do it better, but I think we know how to do how to do our work, but we have to be in more book fairs. We have to have more programs. We have to be able to produce more materials because the world is really big, and there's places where we can't be. We can be because we can be everywhere. So for me, it would be being there more.
Over a third of books that are translated from Catalan get translated into Spanish. English is the fourth language. It's behind Italian and French. So given the size and influence of the English language market, do you think there's potential for growth there?
There's potential for growth in all languages, but particularly in English. English-speaking countries don't have a tradition of translating books from other languages into English. Maybe because they are an hegemonic language. So years ago, it was only 3% of every book published into English that was a translation. That's nothing. If you compare that with the rest of Europe, it's absolutely nothing. Things are improving. Now we are in 6%. So there's the world to grow, and it's important to be published in English for different reasons. First of all, because there's lots of readers, that's obvious. But also because there's such a few books being translated into English worldwide that if yours gets translators, the rest of the world says, I have to have a look at this book because it's being translated into English. And that makes a difference in the decision-making about translating or not translating. And also, something very practical is that not that many people in the world can read Catalan. So, obviously, our agents and ourselves, the samples of the books. So, they can read a sample in English, but sometimes with a sample, it's not enough to decide to translate a book. If you only have 50 pages of the book translated into English, and people cannot read Catalan. So, if it's translated into Spanish, there's a whole lot of people around the world that can read it. But still, there's people that cannot read it. If it's translated into English, there you go. Everybody will be, not everybody, but lots of people, lots of publishing companies, lots of editors, lots of publishers will be able to read it.
What about, are there any other particular languages where you feel, the Institute feels that, okay, the Catalan language is perhaps underrepresented and you would like to expand a little bit?
I think we have homework to do in very many places, but China would be one of them. the Chinese publishing industry is growing really strong. I mean, not only talking about the amount of people that live there, but it's growing really strong. And still, there's not enough books translated into Catalan. This is happening, and that's why this year, for the first time, we went there a long time ago, but for the first time, we're going back to the Beijing Fair to encourage more translations. And in Europe, I think naturally, there's lots of translations into German and French, but there should be more. I think we should work strongly in the German and French markets.
Well, speaking of different languages, Barcelona is obviously a very international city, and as well as being filled with wonderful bookstores filled with Catalan literature and Spanish literature, there are also some dedicated English language bookstores. Here's Cillian Shields on how bookstores can build a sense of community through their events and shared activities.
Book clubs are integral parts of literary communities around the world, but English language readers living in Barcelona may be struggling to find like-minded people. That's where bookstores come in.
I think when we opened 2+ years ago, really the community part was super central and important to what we wanted to accomplish. It was definitely about the books, but as much about the people.
That's Kate Baraz, co-owner of Backstory, the newest English language bookshop in Barcelona. She and fellow co-owner Abby Hibbler explained their endless offering of book clubs.
From sci-fi to business to, basically anything. Classics, yes, classics is a new one. And then if an author's coming that we know in advance, we can sometimes make a book club out of that, make a one-off special edition book club for some things. A lot of authors prefer to have that kind of because it's more of a round table than just an author speaking just to a crowd. But yeah, I think right now we have 12 book clubs going.
Yeah,
there's a lot.
At least
there's a lot.
14, I think. Yeah.
The community groups are now even extending beyond the bookshop.
So I know one of the book clubs, they always go out for drinks afterwards. Some of them keep in touch on a WhatsApp group. We facilitate.
With over 40 years of history, Come In Bookshop is one of the English language originals in the city. They too are fostering community with all sorts of themed book clubs.
We have a general one, where you can read a lot of books from different genres. We have a specific one for TikTok books. These books that are right now the top ones. And we have some other ones, specific ones. We have right now one on Asian literature. And we are about to develop one on fantasy, young adult, something like that.
That's store manager Jordi Cuadrado. With any of these book clubs, there's no long-term commitment involved.
I know some book clubs you sign up and you're committed to that book club. We kind of encourage people to dabble and try out different ones so you don't have to commit to a certain series.
Both bookshops host a wide variety of events beyond just book clubs, such as workshops on things like travel writing and autobiographical writing, group journaling sessions, children's storytelling, and even open mic nights.
We have 2 storytelling. One is Rafaela, that is a wonderful woman, a wonderful teacher that came here and worked with the children, not only by telling the story, but also playing with them with this papyroflexia and making some other things with paper and painting and anything. We are making a bit of a community, but I think there is a big community for people that goes to bookstores.
We're open now 7 days a week. We probably have events 6 days of every week, and they're co-created with our community. So people will say, can I start a book club on this? Or can I host a workshop on that? Can I do a journaling event? There's an author coming to town. They come in. And so we've really tried to keep it as all of our events are free and inclusive, and anyone can come. And we just try to keep it as a place where you can meet others and interact in positive ways around books. Really, those events are more community first. So it's whatever people want to sort of gather around and what do people have an appetite for.
Authors also do chit-chat events at Come In.
We also make these chit-chat book clubs. Well, not exactly book clubs, but chit-chat with authors. And we've made it with Tim Parfit, where I have the book here. He's a British author that has been living here in Spain for like, I think, 40 years or 35 years. He was living in Madrid in the 80s, so he knows a lot about La Movida and everything like that.
Spotlighting Catalan literature and bringing it to English audiences was another important facet for Backstory too.
We really did not want to be a shop that's apart from the local culture. That was really important to us. So our first book club was When I Sing Mountains Dance, which was very well received. I loved that, but we really try to keep as much of an integration.
It's the section when you first walk into the bookshop. It's highlighted in the front.
Meanwhile, Jordi agrees that the community aspect is shining brightly in his store's events also.
Well, I can say we are making like a bit of a community, but I think there is like a big community for people that goes to bookstores.
Thanks very much to Cillian. Izaskun, if someone has never read Catalan literature before, where should they start? I'm basically asking maybe for some Sant Jordi recommendations.
It's very difficult for me to recommend something for a person that doesn't know anything about Catalan literature. What I would say is, it depends of the genre you like reading. You should read something of Catalan literature, and we are happy because we have books in all different genres that really appeals to you. Either it's poetry or non-fiction or fiction. If you don't know where to start, the classics are always a secure value.
And what would you like international readers to take away from Catalan literature?
It's a very difficult question. I would like them to recognize. The strongness, the powerful literature we have. But more than that, I think when we read literature in translation, we get two things. We get the book itself, the story, whatever they are telling us, but also you get a perspective. You get a point of view from a place, from a set of mind that it's different from the one that you have. So I think that's our contribution to the world. And what I like about translations, not only from Catalan into other languages, but from literature translated into whatever language, is that it gives you lots of points of view. And in this world that is getting really hard, and where we need more voices, more diversity, translation helps democracy. And I like to think that that's what we are giving to the world, the Catalan perspective.
Well, I hope some of our listeners and our viewers are maybe going to pick up some books that have been translated from Catalan into English or whatever language after listening to this podcast today.
That'd be fantastic.
Thanks very much for joining me.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening and watching. That's us for today. Thank you again to Cillian and to Uriol. Remember, you can subscribe to Filling the Sink wherever you get your podcasts. We'll be back with another episode for you next month. And until then, from me, Lorcan Doherty, and all of us here at Catalan News, Feliz Sant Jordi. A very happy Sant Jordi.